Welcome to another edition of the AsIs podcast. I am your host, Shabazz. How's everybody feeling today? How was your week? How was your day? Again. Hopefully this podcast puts a smile on your face. Hopefully this podcast finds you the best mental, physical, and spiritual health. You know, it's been a long week. A lot of things have happened. I'd like to start off by talking about some of the things that I actually experienced and went through. As I told you in my last podcast, I went home. I had to clear my mind. Had to find some inspiration. Because sometimes you just got to get away. Within that getting away, it proved to serve its purpose. I got a call from a producer of the BMF series. He said, Shabazz, congratulations. We have an air date. The air date is October 23rd. We will be releasing an 8-part series that will run from October 23rd until December. Immediately following, in January, the BMF show will be on. Now, I have nothing to do with the show, but I have something to do with the documentary. My work is a part of that documentary. The documentary was headlined by a company called Jigsaw Productions. It's a blessing to have been able to work with them. You'll be able to check the credits for those who don't believe. And it is what it is. Immediately following that, I have my own project that will come out under the AsIs Entertainment brand. I've been fortunate enough to sign with a major. I am going to refrain from saying exactly who that is, as I do not have a release date for the actual project, but I do have a contract in wishful thinking. That will be my introduction into what I want to do. I was blessed enough to be a part of Civil, now being shown on Netflix, and it is the story of Ben Crump. My work is in that as well, although it is minute and small. Nevertheless, it is something that I can use in my credits. And credit is something that is very important, not only in this business, but in life. That's another story. The story that I'm going to get into now, and I want to really talk about, is the surroundings of the Kelly case. There are all kinds of things being said. I am definitely receiving a ton of hate, but I was built for this. I was born with it. You dig? Like, everybody has a right to their opinion. Everybody has a right to feeling how they feel. And let me tell you this, your feelings are valid because they're yours. I don't have to agree, nor do you have to agree with me. But what I do not understand is the slander that comes as a result. And when I say slander, you can say there's something that you don't agree with, or it was a stupid comment, but they personalize the attacks. And it's funny to me. I seen some yesterday on Twitter. I seen the subliminals, and I politely responded. And one of them, and whom I'm going to speak about today, is Jennifer Bonjean. Let me just say this for the record. I have nothing against her personally. Her work ethic, however, I do. Let me let you guys understand something. The R.Kelly case in its entirety was a delicate situation because it was a reflection and is a reflection on Black America. It is a reflection on selectivity. And I see that there is a problem, severe problem with that. So I don't want to get all across the board, but let me just tell you this. Jennifer Bonjean, I was not happy with how you handled the case. I am not one of those people who are going to say you did a great job and you only had this to work with and this. I don't care about all of that because you stepped up and you accepted the challenge. See, we keep giving excuses to people who are coming up short. We are enablers, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a woman with a man, because I see some men are giving her the same thing. Steve Greenberg did it. I was surprised. I spoke about that, so I'm not going to get into it. But what I will get into is telling you why and what I believe she really messed up. First and foremost, The rumors that have surrounded R. Kelly have plagued him for more than 25 years. R. Kelly has been the subject and target of all kinds of innuendo and rumors. With that being said, you would say that he was definitely a big name, and he was a name who crossed boundaries. He crossed in from R&B to church music to pop music to rock and roll to whatever. He's written songs for a lot of major artists. With that being said, it would be common sense for me to think that a lot of people know who he is. The first mistake that I think happened in that case was Jennifer trying to have jurors dismissed that had seen Surviving R. Kelly. What I found strange about that was Surviving R. Kelly was not the breaking straw for R. Kelly. The breaking straw for R. Kelly started on television with an artist or someone. As far as I know, let me be clear with this. As far as I know, the artist that started it and really made it mainstream and become a joke was David Chappelle. David Chappelle has two famous skits. One is "I'm Rich, Bitch." That's not R. Kelly. That's Rick James. And then R. Kelly is the pissing on the little girls. So regardless to whether someone had actually seen Surviving R. Kelly or not was irrelevant, because you had to think or wonder to yourself, did they actually watch David Chappelle, or have they heard that? And 9 times out of 10, they had. So they already came in with a preconceived notion and a bad taste in their mouths listening to R. Kelly. Do you understand? So with that being said, I feel as though Jennifer should have actually requested or fought to get a plea. Now, let me tell you why I don't think she did that. Because this was Jennifer's first time defending someone on a federal case. Jennifer Bonjean is known for being an appellate lawyer. She goes in and gets people money who were wrongfully convicted and get them out of jail. She's similar to a Ben Crump, with the exception of her being a female. She's white, Ben Crump is a male, and he's black. There is a big difference, and she's also different because Ben Crump is the most powerful black American lawyer in the civil rights world today. She's nowhere near that at all. However, she decided to switch genres. It's still law, but it's a different division of law. Now, when I go in what I'm about to go into, there are going to be people who immediately say, well, Shabazz, you're not a lawyer. You're correct. There are tons of men who are not lawyers. But let me tell you what jail will teach you. And I'm going to give you some examples. For example, I never finished high school. I went to jail. But I own a magazine and I write the entire magazine. I never went to film school, but I film. Part of my work will be on Stars. Part of my work is on Netflix. Part of my work is underground in documentaries. But I've never been formally trained for any of that. Why do I say that? Well, because in jail, there are things that men can do to better themselves. Sometimes you get stuck with a program and you might have to go to school or go to class for your GED. Then they have other programs depending on which state you're in. I remember we had a program called How to Do Life on the Streets. And the program was taught by another inmate. And it's kind of crazy to hear how to do life on the streets and an inmate is teaching it. A lot of people knew that was nonsense, but they did it because they needed the credit to go towards good time. So they would take these type of courses. Then you have a different type of a dude. You have several. So before I get to the different type of dude, you got guys that just hang out in the mess hall all day. They get, jobs in the mess hall, and that's what they do. Then you have guys who are on the yard working out with weights all day. Then you have guys who play basketball. Then you have a different type of a dude, and those type of dudes hang out in the library, the law library. There are guys who wake up in a law book, go to sleep in a law book. They're in the law library anytime the law library is open. Some of these men have studied and are well versed enough that they've gotten people appeals from prison. Because everything that a lawyer can do, you can actually do yourself in jail if you know how to do it. Or your other option is if you have some money or a family who's fortunate enough to be able to make sure your commissary is straight, you can buy the assistance of one of these men. Now, I say that to say and defend that you do not have to necessarily be a lawyer with a title. You can be a lawyer without a title because they're jailhouse lawyers. And now I know people are going to frown upon jailhouse lawyers, but let me tell you something. If you're fighting a case of any sort on any magnitude, sometimes when things don't go your way, you can get yourself together, go in that law library, study, and get out of jail. I know people who've done it. I personally know men who have gotten other men appeals and got them out of jail. The last cover of my magazine had a young man from Chicago. He gave the feds back 57 or 47 years off of his sentence. He is home right now. As a matter of fact, the guy is kind of spectacular, if you ask me, just based on the hustle. He wrote a book. Now, understand, anybody can write a book, but this nigga wrote a book, and he's selling the book for $1,000 per copy. You hear me? $1,000 a copy. So I'm trying to show you the direction and the brilliance in the black community. And although it may not be looked upon like that from everywhere else, it is still brilliant nevertheless. So I say this to equate to Jennifer Bonjean. Jennifer Bonjean has a title, but she is still a woman. Jennifer Bonjean has a title that says she's a lawyer. Nevertheless, she's still human. You understand? She makes mistakes and has flaws. Her first mistake was not knowing the psyche of everything going on around her. Because understand, as a lawyer, you have to be part therapist, part psychologist, part investigator, part legal beagle. There are several things combined to make a person what they are in that field. Now, why do I say that? I say that because she asked for people to be removed if they seen Surviving R. Kelly. Excuse me, wrong answer. You should have been worried about have people ever heard of R. Kelly and to what extent they have, because they are going to go into court with a preconceived notion. Now, in my opinion, and I am going to give you some law, in my opinion, she should have bargained or begged at the mercy of the court to have a plea agreement. She should have went into court entirely different. And let me tell you why. One, when you go into court, right, and you have a jury trial, that is taxpayers' dollars. That is people's times. You have to find, 12 people to come in and use their time to make a decision, right? So now you're having the government spend money. As a result, they want to have a verdict that is in their favor because it justifies the amount of money they spent. Wrong move. Here's why I'll say it. Because the aura, the mentality, and everything that surrounded Kelly for the last 25 years would tell me I do not want to take the chance and put this in a jury of 12. I don't want it to go into the hands of peers who aren't actually peers, because none of those people on that jury was an R. Kelly peer. You understand? R. Kelly's peers came from the ghetto. You dig? And it doesn't say that the ghetto was bad, but I'm just saying it's a different mentality when you deal with that. So for me, I would have preferred to take my chances with one man. Now, here's where the psychologist part comes in. You have to, before you go into this court, study all angles first before you agree to the case. One of the angles she should have taken was to find out who would be the judge. So now if you have a Republican judge and the judge is going to throw away the key, you might want to take a different route. If you have a Democratic judge, he might be more lenient. If you have a judge who's single, you might be more lenient. If you have a judge who has children, and particularly daughters, then that might not be such a good thing. But the point is, you are supposed to know every angle surrounding that case before you make a decision and a move. Jennifer Bonjean's moves were textbook moves. We're going to get a jury. We're going to fight the case. We're going to present our evidence. But a part of the evidence was the cloud that followed R. Kelly, and it wasn't in his favor. So with that being said, I would fight to have a plea bargain, or I would definitely fight to have it judged by a judge. And then my plea would be not guilty, or it could be guilty, or there was another option that she had, which is no contest. Now, a no contest plea allows you to not admit to guilt, but it is saying that, you know what? I'm going to keep it 100 with you right now, because I don't want to come off the top of my head. I'm going to give you some law. How about that? Everybody reads the transcripts. So let me quickly break this down. A no contest plea is a type of plea used in a criminal proceeding as an alternative A no contest plea is a type of plea used in criminal proceedings as an alternative to more traditional guilty or not guilty pleas, also known as a nolla contendere plea. A no contest plea is the equivalent of a person stating that he or she does not wish to admit guilt. Consequently, the plea is reflected on a person's criminal record. The no contest plea is most frequently used during the plea bargaining process in a criminal case. And choosing to enter this plea is often a complex process that requires the assistance of an experienced federal criminal defense lawyer. That comes out of a law book, dog. The last part excludes Jennifer Bonjean because she is not an experienced federal defense attorney. This was her first time. It was potluck. That was a mistake. Now, let me show you the mistakes and the ways of R. Kelly and his decisions. The first case was with Greenberg. I believe because of Greenberg's history and his track record, that was a fair choice. I don't agree with Nicole Becker. Since that trial has happened, today I'm going to show you Nicole Becker is doing a shaky leg in a bra and in tights. Nicole Becker, and this is a side note, a sidebar if you want to say, was accused allegedly by AsIs of giving R. Kelly oral sex. I don't know if it's true, but this is what's said, and this is where they split their friendship. Prior to AsIs claiming that Nicole Becker was the go-between between not only R. Kelly, but Joycelyn and AsIs. She assisted in helping them find apartments. She assisted in distributing money to them. She assisted in leading me to AsIs. My contact came directly from Nicole. Now, that's not alleged. That's a fact. As far as the oral sex is concerned, that's alleged. That is what AsIs claimed. And this is what turned them sour. You understand? So I say that to say there were many wrong decisions in the people who represented R. Kelly from the beginning, and they came from R. Kelly. You understand? So now, Canik came in after the coup with Nicole. Now, the reason why AsIs was mad, allegedly, at Nicole was because of her relationship with R. Kelly. You understand? And what gave that some type of life was Nicole was able to pull Greenberg out of the way and her kind of run the case. She didn't have the experience, and Greenberg did. Now, R. Kelly co-signed all of that. AsIs always felt like R. Kelly was behind it. That's how Nicole was able to get her power. She didn't like that. So there was a problem. As a result, that turned into craziness within that camp. Then next came Canik, who was also a part of the original team. And I don't know, I know where it said he came from, but I don't know exactly. I don't want to say who he came from. I know what people say he came from, but nevertheless, Canik was allowed to come into the courtroom and defend R. Kelly because R. Kelly didn't have any money. Canik was not on the caliber or level of the case for R. Kelly. People excused him. So Nicole got a pass, Canik got a pass, Greenberg didn't get a pass. Now we're on Bonjean and you're giving her a pass. The bad thing about this whole situation is those that are for R. Kelly and so pro R. Kelly are forgiving people. We keep making excuses for each lawyer that comes up and fails. When the answer to me is just based on R. Kelly being R. Kelly, ask for mercy in the court and beg to be heard by one person that you can try to sway with the little evidence that you have. There was no way Jennifer Bonjean should have stepped in front of a courtroom, a federal courtroom, with no witnesses or little to none, with no evidence, no DNA to dispute anything, no psychological dialysis or, observations, nothing. She had nothing. That's inexperience. With a person like R. Kelly, you are not just fighting the charges presented in front of you by the victims. You are fighting rumors and a trail of accusations for more than 25 years. That alone is enough to make you address this entirely different. That's where she failed. Am I going to give her a break and say she wasn't prepared? I am not. Like, how many lawyers are we going to continue to say, oh, they did good, he just didn't have the time, she didn't have nothing to work with? Then why are they lawyers, dog? At what point do we pick, select, and stand firm in our choosing of someone representing that man the right way? At what point? Because up to now, everybody has done a great job with a loss. So mentally, my observation says there is something wrong with the people who are saying that. Everybody has a right to an opinion. You understand? But I would have pleaded no contest. I would have went in front of that judge with the little evidence that I had, and I would have used every piece of charm that I could possibly think of to plead my case. Even if I would have been found guilty, it still would come up as no contest. And when you save the government money and you save the government time, you are least likely to have to pay for what you made them spend. See, someone was going to have to pay for what they spent that money on fighting that case. So if they spent $1 million prosecuting R. Kelly, they were going to expect a judgment equivalent to that $1 million. Excuse me. You understand? So why not go in humble? There's not been any humbleness from anyone. There's still cockiness and arrogance. Jennifer is still cocky, tweeting and posting on Twitter, sending subliminal shots. It's ridiculous to me. I don't even understand how you can still be cocky and arrogant knowing that you lost. And you depend, she wants to correct people and say, no, we lost to 6 charges or 7 charges, whatever it is. That's the wrong answer, lady, because that man is looking at a lot of time. You would not have gotten that had you done it another way. In addition to that, there was a plea bargain made for R. Kelly in the very beginning for 10 years. He refused it. That was arrogance. That was, I can win, like regardless to whatever. And at the time, I could understand him turning that plea down and not being interested in entertaining it, simply because he probably thought there were going to be a ton of people that was going to come to his defense. But it was a surprise. Nobody came to his defense. So when I say what I say, I'm not anti-R. Kelly. I'm still not anti-R. Kelly. I am just telling you the story. You guys don't like the facts. You can be as mad as you want to at Shabazz, but the proof is the proof, dog. This man been in the game for 30 plus years and not one person vouched for him. As a matter of fact, there were less people in Chicago than there were in New York. In New York, there was Lisa and Cassandra and Dottie. I think Dottie went to Chicago's trial. Lisa and Cassandra didn't show up. You understand? I didn't see the same. I was in the New York trial. I went there very quietly because I feel like I bring more controversy in the goddamn trial. Because to be honest, I was approached to be a participant in the New York trial. I declined that. And you could say, oh, Shabazz, I'm not lying, dog. I don't have to. There was an investigator that was on my behind to get my documentary and get the files and get the tapes and ask me questions. I avoided that. I didn't want to be involved with that. For what? Because I'm not a part of the case, and I felt like my work spoke for me. There's nothing more than I can say than what you see on these tapes. You understand? What am I going to say? I was an outside contractor. I was never a part of that camp in that circle. I was around that circle, and I seen the inner workings of that circle, but I knew from my heart, in my gut, I would have never been allowed to stay. I would have been fired day 2. And the reason why is because I would have said something. And I'm not saying something about I would have said something because I seen something wrong sexually. I would have just said something just because how son talked. That talk, his whole vernacular was not something that sat well with Shabazz. And that is not an exclusive R. Kelly trait. That is not something that is just him doing. Most people who are on certain levels have the same type of arrogance and same attitude. That doesn't make it right, dog. Because you making whatever you making and because everybody is bowing down to you does not mean that you have to be condescending or talk to them crazy. There are still humble celebrities in this business who are far richer and much more popular than R. Kelly. That's a nigga characteristic. That is something that you let go to your goddamn head. And if you want to be like that, that's fine. You could be like that, but you just can't be like that with me. So everybody knows their place. You already know. You know what I'm saying? It's like trying to go get a job wherever you want to get a job at. But a part of the job description is you will be lifting 100 to 150 pound box every 30 minutes. Man, I'm not about to be busting my ass lifting up these heavy ass boxes. That job ain't for me. I'm just not taking that job. That don't mean that I'm arrogant or what. Yo, I just know maybe my body is not physically equipped to pick up them boxes. And that was the same thing in the R. Kelly camp. Now, there are people who have a higher tolerance and there are people who have a lower tolerance. It just depends on the person. But for Shabazz, that just wasn't going to work. You understand? So again, getting back to Jennifer, I think she took the wrong steps and handled it the wrong way. Because she took a textbook gamble. She took the gamble that they taught her in law school. But the crazy thing about it for me is, as an appellate lawyer, it is a different style of law than defending a client. And because of the lack of money and the lack of knowledge directly from R. Kelly, Jennifer Bonjean was chosen. So if you want to be real, let's put it this way. Cannon came in because he ain't have no money. Jennifer Bonjean came in because he ain't have no money. Like, the man is never really getting a chance from anyone because his selections are poor. The people that can come in and fool and trick him and give him those grandiose statements are the ones that he seems to pick. Because Tom Mesereau came in and he wanted $3 million, $3 to $5 million. He ain't have it. So you have to use what you have. And here's what I'm going to tell you. And whether people want to admit this or know this or not, he would have been better off having a court-appointed lawyer because of the level of that case and because that could make or break someone's career. A court-appointed lawyer would have did wonders because you want me to tell you why? They would have searched high and low for every piece of evidence. They would have gone to a school or college because you have colleges and schools, similar to Murder Was the Case on television, where they will go through everything like a small fine-tooth comb to find anything to get their client off. A bunch of college kids. You understand? It's no different than owning a property or owning a store, right? And when the summertime comes, you have your selection to pick from the best of the best who are out of school. So you might get, employees like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has a different type of employee. They speak differently. They have a different mannerism. They have a different mentality than somebody at McDonald's and Burger King. Don't ask me why. However, Chick-fil-A has mastered picking out a certain type of person. You have that pick selection from colleges when they're out of college. But as a lawyer, you would still have that same pick selection if you were court appointed. This is when a court appointed lawyer could have came in with the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union. Could have came in with the college students. R. Kelly would have had a boatload of people investigating, breaking down everything that was needed. Jennifer Bonjean doesn't even have a team like that. What is it, her and 2 other lawyers? It is impossible for her to be able to have done her due diligence the way the government would have given to R. Kelly. That's a fact. People think, oh, well, if he had, a court-appointed lawyer, that means he's broke. Nigga, he was broke. So all the saving face meant nothing because you're still broke. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing because Shabazz is broke. You understand? Like, I'm not even on the front and all of that. Like, the game is the game, son. Tell the truth, nigga. So therefore, I don't have to live a lie. Because you want to front like you this and you that. You got to be like this and that at all times. And the moment somebody discovers that you are not, you got a real problem. You dig? I'll never forget, and to get off real quickly, I was sitting in a club with Russell Simmons. And Russell told me, he said, Shabazz, and this was when I first started off, he says, yo, don't expect to get the money right away. He said, I had Def Jam for 5 or 6 years. I had hits on the radio with Run DMC and LL Cool J, and I was broke. Because the money that was coming in was paying for the overhead and paying for the artists. Personally, he didn't have no money, but his biggest part and biggest piece of money was the name Russell Simmons, because the average person didn't know that. So he can walk into that club, walk into a restaurant, and he was going to eat and get the same service as anyone, as a king, simply because his name was Russell Simmons. But he couldn't put his hands in his pocket and pull out no money because he didn't have it. These words came from Russell Simmons. And I always remember that, because during the rough times, I said, that nigga jinxed me. I was like, damn, he's telling the truth. You understand? Based on the things that I'm involved in, you would think I'm sitting back holding. Dog, my shit coming on Stars on the 23rd. 50 for BMF got $150 million for that show. I didn't even get a thousandth of a percent of that. You dig? For my shit on TV. So I use that as a parallel to say, yo, so what? People would have thought whatever. Because what would you prefer? Someone to think something negative about you who ain't really got a pot to piss in the first place, but you would have your freedom, as opposed to people holding you in this highlight, and every time you turn around, you got a loss. Because that is exactly what happened, dog. So when I say the things I say, people say, oh, Shabazz, you're attacking R. Kelly. I just think from a different angle, son. I think from a different level. And I am not going to join the force of bloggers who are either pro or for R. Kelly, because I am going to stand in the middle. And that is the only way you can tell the story without being biased either way. Because if you're pro R. Kelly, a lot of those people are liars. They're exaggerators. Those people are mean. They've blamed, name called every sister that came up and said she had a problem. Nobody told the truth on R. Kelly. Nobody. I really think the pro R. Kelly sector is worse than the bad sector, or, you know, let me use what are they called? OCOV. I'll use them for example. The ones that I've seen, they come with the facts for the case, and they come with the facts for life. Meaning, you know, you don't rape, you don't touch little girls, you don't touch little kids. You know, those are things that are instilled in us, but nevertheless, they are a basis for feeling the way you feel. You have something to fall back on when they present their arguments. You understand? But on the pro side, there's nothing to fall back on, because even when you present the evidence, they turn around and say they're lying. Well, goddamn, how many people are lying? You have to be open-minded, son. I am not, pro, and I am not against. You have to be able to walk down the middle so you can clearly see everything. I'm going to maintain that and stand on that. But we're going to move on. I am going to show you today, and I'm going to explain to you step by step what I was talking about, because we're going to get into the Ed Jensen tapes. Now, there were people throwing shots and subliminals, and I'm not even going to dignify even acknowledging you because you're a peon to me. I'm not even going to say it. But what I will say, these are news tapes that were shown to international news agencies. There is actually a tape that someone that was a reporter went in and filmed while Ed Jensen was on his deathbed. That is accessible as well. I know where that tape is at. And here's why I have a problem with Jennifer Bonjean. Because if I, the ghetto nigga who does not have college, who did not finish high school, can come up with this information and contact these people, how couldn't you do that? And you're a lawyer. I don't get it. I just don't get it. What I'm going to show you right now will smash all the evidence that Jennifer Bonjean had. Period. She had nothing. So how is she great? How is she good? I heard the same thing when when Nicole was doing what Nicole was doing, and turns around 6 or 7 months later, Nicole is up there on everything minus and short of a stripper pole. But people thought that she was great as well. From the gate, Azriel told me, Shabazz, she ain't great. She had some choice words for her. But you know what? I didn't hold that against Nicole. I still interviewed Nicole. I still listened to Nicole because I knew that Azriel was upset. So if I would have taken Azriel's advice from the beginning, I would have never even approached Nicole because I thought Azriel was biased. But as a non-biased person, I am going to speak to both of them. But I can tell you this, 6, 7, 8, 9 months later, what Azriel said ended up revealing itself because I'm going to show you Nicole today too. Jennifer don't even have none of that. Jennifer can't even go back and say that she's ineffective counsel because the judge in New York clearly sat and asked R. Kelly, did he want to get rid of Nicole? He said no. Everybody scratched their heads who was on the outside looking in because we all knew what was going on. And I especially knew what was going on because Nicole was not only a part of the coup, Nicole was a part of my documentary. Now, although I was filming at the time, it was always strange to me that I was getting the information that I was getting from lawyers in an active case. Like, dog, I read the man's letters, Pooh Bear and Honey Bun and all that kind of crap. Those letters were coming out and being smuggled to Azriel and Joycelyn. I'm watching this shit. Like, yo, so I'm saying to myself, I'm actually relieved that it had gotten out and it didn't come from me. And somehow or another, that information started making it into the court. So the judge knew, but R. Kelly stood there calmly and allowed Nicole to stay on. What I'm gonna do? Like, because the same thing I know, you know. You want me to tell you why I know he knows? Because he's writing the letters and telling them who to pay and what to do. And Nicole and them is going out there and doing it. Y'all don't like that though. Now, what I will say as a defense to him is he didn't know. He don't know no better. He didn't. Because had he known that all of this was going to come out, had he seen all of this, I think he might have made a different choice. But at this point, he's so far gone, what the fuck he gonna do? He got to ride with it. The only thing I think R. Kelly can do to help himself is to learn as best he can to read or get one of those guys that's in the jail, that's a legal beagle. Someone who plays that law library and start to fight that way because he can overturn some of that. He doesn't need Jennifer to do that. I promise you that, dog. You might look at dude, Smith, just for an example. And Smith might have did something. He has a murder charge. And he has life. Smith has already been in jail 20 years. But Smith is in that law library every damn day. Smith is as sharp as a tack. He will tear Greenberg and Jennifer and Nicole and whomever else up in that law. Like, there are dudes who have dedicated themselves to doing this because they don't have anything else to do. So the first part of winning is now actually saying, you know what? I asked for leniency to the court. I admit what I did was wrong. And let me tell you something else. For those who say, well, he should have never taken the plea bargain because he did nothing wrong. Sometimes the odds are so much against you that you just go ahead and cop to it because it's easier to cop to it and get it over with and get lesser time than to fight and get found guilty. You understand? So telling me whether he was guilty or not, at the end of the day, listen to me and hear me close, is similar to taking a plea bargain, because not all plea bargains are the same. He could have taken a regular plea bargain, or sometimes people are offered a regular plea bargain, should I say. So someone might, like with women, it happens all the time. They'll tell a girl, either you tell and we're going to take your mom or we're going to take your daughter or whatever. So as a result, we're not going to get you 25 to life. We're just going to get you 20. Stupidity will make them take that plea bargain. Because if you're getting 20 years and you still got to tell, you're dumb. Like, the only way you should even negotiate or even pay attention to that offer is if you walk. The girls that are on the current case, they all received immunity. I'm not co-signing what they did. I'm not saying they did right or they did wrong, but they got good deals because ain't none of them in jail. And they were allowed to say whatever they wanted to. As a matter of fact, they had smart mouths and they gave it right back to Jennifer when she tried to give it to them. That was another stupid mistake because you stooped down in a bowl of slop and played with the pigs. You understand? Now, I'm going to use that analogy, and that analogy is still not as bad as the analogy she used, because she used the analogy of everybody was roaches. And those roaches was in a bowl of soup, and the soup was contaminated. And the bad thing about that is everybody on the case is black. She didn't even know how to use tact in dealing with this case and understanding that there was still some part of racial divisiveness, if that's the word. There was a division, and there are some things you shouldn't say, although you can say them and you can have the analogy, but it's going to offend people. Nicole did the same thing in the documentary. I showed it to one of the lawyers, and he said she shouldn't have said that. I asked her a question about the black girls in the case, and she said, quote unquote, it's amazing to me that everybody in the case who said something against R. Kelly was black. I wonder why there were no white women. She said that. I have the tape. And when I'm listening to her say that, I'm saying in my head, you know that's going to piss black women off, right? It doesn't matter how you feel about R. Kelly. Black women are still going to see that as a shot. Because the audacity of you to be a white woman in 2020, 2019, talking about or, insinuating that the only liars were black women and that white women would never lie. Because that's what that is the equivalent to. That's what that implied. That's what that statement meant. Jennifer Bonjean did the exact same thing with the roaches. Because it implies that all black women are roaches. And this is the bowl of soup, because all of the women on the case were roaches, were black, regardless to whether they were for R. Kelly or against him. Some analogies and some things you shouldn't do. So that tells me in your worldly experience, you weren't experienced. You understand? Because you still went against the grain and you were doing these things based on natural instinct. This is what you thought you can do to help your client. However, that help was offensive and this was textbook to you. So that tells me the textbook method is racist. It has racist overtures, overtones. That's what it is, a racist overtone. Some people ain't going to agree, but there are a ton of black people who agree with that. And let me tell you something, in the R. Kelly sector, no matter, on YouTube, the pros and the cons is not even a reflection of the people who are against R. Kelly. There are not enough people to match the members in Me Too. Let's say, one person has 10,000 followers. Let's say 10 people have 10,000 followers. That's 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people do not compare to the amount of women that are a part of Me Too. And that 100,000 that's a part of the R. Kelly blogger community can be pro and con. But conservatively, with you too, there's 1 million anti-R. Kelly women. Millions. And there are several organizations that are just that strong. That's just how far the distaste of R. Kelly has come. So when you're up against unsurmountable odds, when you're up against odds like that, you have to come a different way. So you have to be able to use a psyche. It has to be psychological. You have to have worldly experience. Jennifer Bonjean came in with textbook experience. And as a result, R. Kelly was found guilty of what he was found guilty of by a jury. And even those that are for or against said Chicago's court seemed fair. That judge seemed fair. So if you think about it, that judge would have been fair enough, minus him having to go to a jury to listen to the arguments presented by both sides. He may have found some leniency. But as a result of the verdict and as a result of the guilt, he has federal sentencing minimum guidelines. And they're going to come out. That's enough of me talking. What I talked about and what you guys want to see is Jensen. So I'm going to show you Jensen. Hold on.
This is I was contacted on this case 6.5, almost 7 years ago. And I put more work on this case. I mean, I've graduated from late middle age to senior citizen on this case. And so it's nice to have this verdict, and it's nice to put in thousands of hours of work that results in that results in the kind of verdict we have. I'm not telling you.
One of the witnesses indicated that Rashona's parents, or at least her father, was helping you guys with the defense and encouraging family members to talk to you guys.
Helping us. I never met the man in my life.
Well, they said it was your witness. He testified that Greg asked
talking about
Leroy
Leroy.
to come talk. So I just wondered what role, how much help they did give you. And
Greg asked Leroy to talk.
that's the extent of it.
That's we work with both sides.
Have you had a chance?
Those, with the exception of the three that testified, fourth.
Have you had a chance to talk to the victim? Have you had a chance to talk to her? And
Surprise, surprise. Now, let me tell you what you've just seen. You've just watched one of the assistants of Ed Jenson's blatantly lie and get caught in the lie, and then Jensen came to recover for him. He claimed that he never knew who Rashonda's father was. But Ed Jensen came in and corrected him and said, hey, this was Leroy. Now, there was some talk about, and I might be paraphrasing because I don't remember 100%, but the father was supposed to have gotten the news of what his daughter had done, and he bowed down and started crying on the floor or something similar to that. Regardless to whatever it is, what this piece shows you is that Ed Jensen, along with his assistants, actually worked with Rashonda. However, Rashonda didn't want to testify. Now, the question that comes to me is, what prompted Rashonda to want to work with Ed Jensen when the state was saying that she was 14 years old? Ed Jensen clearly knew her father and her. I will be safe to assume the mother as well. What does that show? That shows that there was some fuckery involved in it. Everybody's not going to admit to that, but you clearly see, and you can rewind this and look at his assistant again. He looked dead in the tape and claims, I do not know who Rashonda is. The reporter clearly says to him, that is your client. If that's not catching somebody in a lie, a bold-faced lie, I don't know what is. But there's more. Hold on.
I just want to say one thing before we leave. I want to thank Judge Gaughan. During the trial, I lost my father-in-law. He gave us the day off so I could attend the services. Not all judges would do that, and he's a real human being, and I want to thank him for that.
A fourth generation tape that was filled with all sorts of video noise where you couldn't identify, in my opinion, anything. That's my view of the tape. I don't think anything hurt them. They put in the evidence as they had it. They didn't do anything wrong. These are brilliant prosecutors, and they did a wonderful job. Oh, there's a lot of those. I'd rather not talk about witnesses and whether they were good or bad, who I examined. I'm pleased with the verdict. I'm pleased with the everybody involved in this case. It was a wonderful, wonderful case to try, and I've expressed these views to everybody involved before the verdict came in. So this is not an after-fact rationalization.
Was there any point during this whole process, this 6.5 years, when you saw the overwhelming media coverage which seemed to indicate that was him on the tape, that was an underage girl, that you wondered whether this...
Now, as you guys have seen, you got to put it together. Like, you really got to put it together. Jensen answers the questions that I think are appropriate for him to answer. However, after that, that I didn't show, there was not a heated exchange, but it was a challenging exchange because one of the reporters that was present went into, how could you not say that was R. Kelly? And he had an answer for it, and I'm not going to show it. And one of the reasons why I decided to show this is because I told you I had the tapes and you guys didn't believe me. And it's fine. You know what I'm saying? This is not about prove anything. This is not even about anti-R. Kelly. Let me just tell you something for the record. Let me get right up into this. I met Steve Greenberg through the street people. And it was no, I wasn't with a person and he said, hey, here's, Greenberg, this is Shabazz. Nah, I got him through myths and legends. But I'm a kind of a person that if you're that person, I'm going to find you. And I just went and found him and we just hit it off like that. From that, we did the documentary and I think Greenberg is a cool person. Greenberg put me on to Jennifer. Now, in the beginning, after me and Jennifer had our discussions, the general consensus between the two of us was I was going to help her. I was going to assist her in trying to give her stuff to help R. Kelly. I wanted to ensure that he would have a fair trial. You know, I wasn't going on whether he was guilty or innocent. I wasn't going to attack none of the girls and even though I had worked directly with Azriel, I worked directly with Nicole Becker. You understand? So I knew both sides, but I wanted to make sure both sides played out the way they were supposed to. Somewhere along that line, it went left. And I believe it went left is because on some real shit, Jennifer Bonjean has a challenging personality. You know, I don't know if you guys believe in horoscopes and all that kind of shit. I don't know. But I'm a Scorpio. I don't know what she is. And, you know, we have, you know, our own type of sting. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes things may come out hard, but that's not the intent. Jennifer is the type of person and has the personality to show you or tell you, you know, I'll never forget, and I'll go back to the Kanye, you know, she met Kanye and Kanye was in the club and she went off on Kanye talking about, I don't care that you're Kanye. I don't care this, that, and the other. And Kanye refused to give her back the energy she gave him because it was in the best interest of Larry Hoover. At that time, Jay Prince was behind it and Wendy Hoover was behind it with getting Jennifer to assist with helping release Larry Hoover. So Kanye's attitude was, I'm not going to argue with this lady because this lady might quit and then I got a problem. I got to explain to Miss Wendy. I got to explain to Jay Prince. So he just let her get away with it. Me, on the other hand, I don't answer to nobody. And I'm not trying to do something for the sake of a cause. I did something for the sake of it being right. So I don't care about you having the attitude to say, you know, I'm Jennifer and who cares about you, Shabazz? Lady, listen, yo, I don't care nothing about all that. You understand? And some people can't deal with that. When you are the chief, sometimes it is hard to be taken out of your chief's chair because you're used to people being subservient and bringing you information, and you kind of like treat them like a peasant. You're not treating me like no peasant, shorty. You're not even talking to me, left. I'm not Kanye. I don't care about none of that you talking about. Here's the proof. Here's what it is, and that's going to be that. If you can't deal with it, so be it. If you try to come back and be condescending and talk to me as if you're a black woman or talk to me with black sass, I'm going to give you back black man. You dig? We had that. We had a texting conversation and she tells me, don't try to read me, yada, yada, yada. Yo, hold up. Who the fuck you think you talking to? Don't try to read you. Like, I ain't even going to go into all of that, but here's the thing. It just went left because of that. And I think maybe it was because we have two strong-willed personalities. I don't have anything against Jennifer Bonjean personally. I just don't like the way she handled the operation. I don't think she had enough experience, worldly experience, not legal experience, because you need worldly experience to deal with the R. Kelly case. Because you have to understand, when you are taking a job, you have to be mindful of the area and the environment of the people that are surrounding that case. You understand? As a black man, if I got put on an investigative case to go investigate the mob, I know goddamn well I can't go to the sports bar asking about Luigi. They not going for that. So I got to go get Frank and tell Frank that I'm trying to get to Luigi and tell him what I want Luigi for. And then Frank goes into the sports bar and translates what I want to say simply because Frank is white and Italian. There ain't gonna be no questions asked. But nevertheless, it's Shabazz who wanted the information. And let me tell you something before you even go left with me. I did that before. You understand? I did it with the Gambinos. Like, I'm telling you shit from experience. And that don't make me a big shot or nothing. That means I used what I needed to use in order to get the job done. Bottom line. And I knew damn well I wasn't walking up nowhere talking about I want to talk to the Gambinos, even though the Gambino son wrote me from a federal institution and told me what to do and talk to his father and gave his father the forewarning. The problem with that was the people who stood in front of Gambino at first wanted to make sure I was who I was, and they still want, I forgot the word that I'm looking for, but they wanted to, there was a barrier in between me and them. You understand? This is like I give you a better one. You just can't get to Russell Simmons. You're going to go through 5 or 6 assistants before you get to Russell Simmons because they're going to take you through all types of hoops, loops, and boundaries just to make sure whatever it is you want is legit. When you finally get to Russell Simmons, Russell's going to say, yo, that's just their job, Shabazz. Don't even take it personal, but you got to me now. And that has happened as well. You understand? So when you come at Jennifer Bonjean, it's kind of like similar to that. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say because some things I can't put into words because they are just feelings. You dig? It's something that you just understand. And that was the understanding with me and her. So with that being said, this is not personal, dog. This ain't personal against her. This ain't personal against R. Kelly. This is me giving you the information that was found. And let me tell you something else. And this is going to sound similar to something that some people may have heard. Black people always say, we don't produce poppy seeds because there's nothing in America where we can grow poppy seed plants on. This is true. That's in Colombia. That's in Dominican Republic. Those are in places that we don't have, we have access to, but we don't have the farms there. We're not making the guns and shipping them into America. Someone else is making it. You understand? So with that being said, it's like when I went for this information, I don't own a telecommunications company. You understand? I don't. The people who have access to these files that go way back, they don't work for me. I don't control them. So I say that to say to you, there are many people who have the links and the bits and pieces of evidence needed to help R. Kelly. The problem is Jennifer Bonjean don't know how to get to him. And instead of coming off of her high goddamn horse and listening to a little nigga from the streets, she walked her ass into that courtroom and she lost miserably when she could have had it a whole different way. She's never going to tell you that. My tapes will tell you that because you see what you see, don't you? She don't got it. Do she? And that's the problem. You understand? And it pains me because it's like, yo, shorty, it didn't have to go that route. I don't understand how a person can have that type of attitude or have that type of mentality and you walk into a court to defend somebody, you have no witnesses, no evidence, no nothing to stand up and say R. Kelly is not guilty. You had absolutely nothing. But you got the nerve to have an attitude? You got the nerve to be a chief? Nah, dog. Now, maybe for some of you, and I say you, and I don't want to make this an internal thing with bloggers, but what I will say is she's got y'all fooled because y'all don't know that. You just know what you see from the surface. I know it bigger and I know it deeper than that. In fact, I know that so deep that I'm going to leave it alone and I'm going to go now into Nicole. We use the same tactics and decorum dealing with Nicole. Little nigga Shabazz. You know how many people I had out in the streets on their job? There's a squad. And I put one of them on her because we knew she was coming to court. In addition to Azriel making the accusations that she made, there was accusations that every weekend Nicole would fly in from Michigan and have her prison visit with R. Kelly. I wanted to see if it was true. Guess what? Yo, son, check this out. I need you to be such and such at 12 o'clock and wait and look to see if you see this type of person. And bingo! Watch what you see. Because I ain't fronting. You know what I'm saying? Like, my generation was, yo, he fronting, he full of shit. Y'all generation is he capping. Nigga, I ain't got the cap. I ain't got the front. Look, I'm going to tell you what it is, whether you like it or not, and I am going to back it up. If you do not like what you see, you can't get mad at me because I am not the one who made that person do whatever. I am the one showing you. And sometimes we buy into people, we buy into things, and they let us down because they are not who they pretend to be. Do you understand? And if you don't understand that, nigga, 12 o'clock Saturday in front of MCC, I want you to wait for Nicole. And then you run up on her. Think I'm bullshitting? Watch.
All right. How was his morale, R. Kelly's morale today?
He likes to say he was terribly good.
Okay.
In other words, he's doing terrible.
Yeah.
He's there. Everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But good to be alive. He appreciates every single
letter he gets, he actually reads every single letter
Okay.
in photo. And he really appreciates his fans. He always ends it by saying that to me.
Okay.
But he's in the fight for his life. There's no doubt about it.
How's his
Now, as you can see, Nicole answered the questions that I had someone ask her. And then Nicole proceeded to walk herself away and go get in a nice, cozy, comfortable, prestigious vehicle. And I imagine she flew back to Michigan. What I am trying to show you is how these people moved. And as they were moving, what allowed me to move was they underestimated me. I think all of them did. Because they had no idea what I learned in the streets. Let me tell you something. I'm not proud of selling drugs. You know what I'm saying? I've been there, done that. But that's not a proud moment in my life because I helped to destroy black families and black people. So that is not something that I'm sitting up with a badge of honor. But I walked away with lessons, and you know how to move. Because dealing with dope fiends and crackheads and all kinds of people like that, you learn human behavior. So you become an expert of being able to read a situation and knowing how to deal with people. I just applied what I learned from the streets and took it into investigative journalism. That's all I did. Now, my findings and what I came back with, a lot of people don't like. And I told you guys from the beginning, there were things that I had arguments with the lawyers about because they wanted a picture drawn that I refused to draw. I was going to do my job and find everything that I could find. And a lot of this information that I'm sitting on, they don't know about. They may know about it now because I know they watch. I know motherfuckers is tight with Shabazz. But that's because you underestimated me. And that's what they do to black men. I am not going to make this racial. I'm going to stay away from that because that's kind of getting redundant. And then seems like people don't want to listen because you're really not hearing me. So what I will do is show you the prestige of what a lawyer does. She went from the prestige of defending R. Kelly, and Nicole was a prosecutor at one time. She wasn't a defense attorney, similar to not being a defense attorney, the same as Jennifer Bonjean. And then she ended up on TikTok like this. Now, I want you to be mindful of what you're looking at and what you've seen. And you have to ask yourself, was Nicole Becker a logical choice to defend R. Kelly? Because look what she does to reveal herself months later. This is the same young lady that Azriel made strong allegations against. Azriel claimed that she caught Nicole having oral sex with R. Kelly. That's what she said. That's alleged. I did not say that. I don't know if it's true or if it's not. But based on the evidence, which is this post, which is what you've just seen, what would you believe? So that makes me wonder about this entire ordeal, starting from everyone down, and just for the sake of argument, because people say that I'm biased towards Greenberg. I do like Greenberg. I think as a lawyer, he's a good person. Jennifer could be a good person. Nicole could be a good person. But the question is, are they good enough to represent a case of this magnitude, of this caliber? And the obvious answer is no. Because look at the results. Look at where he is at. How could a man be as confident as he is, confident as he was? Look at him. From 2008 and walked away scot-free, turn around and end up years later sitting in jail looking at life. When you look at this entire case in its hindsight, what do you think? I know what you think. People will get mad. because of the outcome. And so they will start to point fingers. And of course, with a person like me, you're going to point fingers. But it ain't my fault, dog. The information that I'm giving you is not my fault. All of this was done prior to me getting involved. The only thing that I've done, and I'm not even trying to defend myself because I don't really give a fuck if you like it or if you don't. I am showing you the evidence. It is up to you to put 2 and 2 together to decide if this is what you want to believe. Because of the love for R. Kelly, because of the music, this is going to hurt people and they don't want to accept the truth. That's just it. Like, I can go on and on and on. I could give you some more footage. As a matter of fact, I think I will. Because you know what? There was a time when R. Kelly foreseen this coming. And one of the things that he did when people tried to come at Shabazz is he wanted damage control. You understand? Daryl couldn't give him the damage control because he was a con man. He's in jail. Like, everybody in that circle has a problem. But nobody wants to admit that. Everybody wants to point fingers and blame other people. How, dog? Like, I don't get it. Like, you have to accept the truth of being the truth. And in the event that R. Kelly is guilty, you ride with, okay, he's guilty, but I'm still riding with him. That's how I see it. But to try to take away and say this didn't happen and that didn't happen, and then go and say Nicole was a good lawyer, then go and say Jennifer was a good lawyer. Like, based on what I'm telling you just in this podcast, how can you walk away saying that? I am showing you evidence that I'm a little nobody ass nigga, but I got it. They don't. How can you be a lawyer winning millions of dollars, getting people released from jail, and you mean to tell me you ain't got a private investigator who can investigate enough in the black community and get what I got? And let me tell you this, the information I got didn't come from nobody black. So save all the Shabazz is racist and I hate white people shit, because it was white folks who gave it to me. So what does that tell you? There are so many people hidden behind closed doors that it is just not funny, and they are not pro R. Kelly. However, they are smart enough and non-biased enough to say, Shabazz, this is how I really feel, but for the sake of argument and for the sake of fair, I'm going to give you this information. Because they know I get in their ass. I don't give a fuck if they white or black. The same way I'm talking on this podcast, I promise you, they can have on a suit and a tie. You could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be whoever. But if I'm on the case, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. And I'm going to tell them, like, yo, I'm not trying to hear all that bullshit. I don't give a fuck about your personal feelings about that, man. I need that tape. Especially if I know they got it. Now, if I'm trying to probe and find out if they got it, I'm not going to say all that. But when it's mano a mano, man to man, or man to woman, yo, shorty, you got to come up off of that. Because at the end of the day, you will be no better than the people who are falsely accusing him if you don't release the information, if you try to hide it. What is going to separate you morally, ethically, subconsciously from those who are liars? Nothing. So although you may feel that way, for the sake of morale, or morality, or I might even use the wrong word, I don't care, and I'm not redoing this. Give me them goddamn tapes. And I got the tapes. Now, understand something. I'm going to take you there. You dig? I'm a nigga. If a motherfucking nigga can walk somewhere and get this shit, why can't Jennifer Bonjean do it? Why wasn't she smart enough to listen? Dog, she fucked up. Bottom line. Like, there's no way to look at it other than that. But let me hit you with something else maybe to relieve and release some stress and give you a good outlook. This was a part of damage control. This was something that R. Kelly's inner circle knew was happening before Gayle came. And this is the ending of the show. And if you follow this case or you follow whatever Shabazz did or does, you're going to recognize this. Watch this too.
Change gon' come. Your turn, Kelly. Yes, it will. Your turn, Kelly. Two. Hard living. What's the problem, Kelly? I'm afraid to die. What's going on up there, Kelly? What's going on up there? 'Cause I don't know what's up there. I know sky. But what has it been? It's been a long, 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 When is it gonna come? One day? Yes, it is. Has it been too long? I go to my big brother. Hey! And I said, brother, won't you help me, please? But he just winds up. What he do? What he do? What he do? Back down on. Back down on. Back down on my. Whoa, there been times when I thought, hey, you gotta get in, baby. You get in. Now I know I'm able to carry on. And it's been what? It's been a long, 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 long. What's gonna come, John? What's gonna come, John? A change gonna come.
Now, as you see, that was a happier time. And although there was singing and R. Kelly seemed to be jubilant and the people around him seemed to be happy, there was a reason for that to be done. It was damage control. It was damage control because we all knew what was coming. You know, the elite inner circle. I'm not talking about just people that were in the audience, but someone else helped me put that together. We knew exactly what it was, and R. Kelly knew exactly what it was. So R. Kelly's answers were geared and directed towards protection for what was going to come at him. Now, for me, it didn't really matter because I felt like any man deserves a fair chance to speak for himself. You know, at that time, Gayle King wasn't something that was foreseen. You know, they put all that together at the last minute. And from my understanding, you know, Daryl was instrumental in putting that together. The rumor or what was being said was that he was supposed to receive $250,000 for that interview. I find that kind of hard to believe, and the reason why is because R. Kelly needed that interview. What happened was he went left. The interview with Gayle King was something that was going to be mainstream and put his response on another level. The actual TV show that he shot with me was for the streets. I don't have Gayle King power. I don't have a national network behind me. So that was never something that was even discussed. I had a role to play, a part to play, and I did my job. As a result of me trying to do my job, there were also people who were doing their job, and their job was snake shit. For example, from that very same show came the clip about R. Kelly saying, "I've been doing this for 30 years. They should have got me a long time ago." What was said and what you understood was not the intent behind what he said. He wasn't saying that he had done anything wrong for 30 years. He was actually speaking about his career. But when you take a soundbite from something and you don't take it in its entirety, they can change the narrative to make it appear as if it's something that it's not. Lifetime got wind of it, took it, and put it in Surviving R. Kelly. From my show, they straight jacked it. And because they were so strong and had such strong momentum, they didn't care about the lawsuits that could have come as a result of that, because they have a legal department to ward off lawsuits, or they have money where they can shut you up. But that's not the point. The point is me showing you how they can change something to make you believe something that actually isn't. Now, just as quickly as I can show you something, right, like that, I can also show you the reverse of that. And what I mean by that is the reverse of that is me knowing exactly what was going on in detail. The part that people don't like is when I tell you what was going on in detail. For example, Like I said, it was damage control because he knew all of the allegations that were coming. He knew about the offenses that Joycelyn was going to come up with, as well as Azriel. And Joycelyn didn't come up with offenses. She's always maintained in a pro R. Kelly approach. Azriel, entirely different story. But there was turbulence and there were rumblings prior to that happening. Understand that. He was trying to get in front of it. I don't think what we did was wrong because I felt like he deserved a fair chance. That was the whole purpose and intent behind As Is, to give those who would not normally get a chance to tell their truth a platform to tell their truth. Because when white America and the media comes at a black man, they always paint the narrative that they want you to have. And normally, usually, the black man's voice gets drowned out, even in the black communities, because the black community is the actual community that came after R. Kelly to initiate all of this in the first place. And part of that reason is because it was done to black girls. I'm not going to say I had a problem with that because I don't know if those girls were lying or telling the truth. What I do know, it was their story and they deserve to tell their story. I am not going to do what everyone else did and say she's lying, he's lying, because the stories are too similar and I've seen some stuff on my own. Does that make me take less of an interest in liking in R. Kelly's music? It does not. You understand? So I think people are getting confused and they don't really understand when I say that I'm non-biased and I'm walking down the middle. They want me to go either left or they want me to go right. I don't want to go left or right because I don't believe that you can tell a story fairly on either side. You have to walk straight down the middle. Now, the difference with me is I have tapes to prove what I'm saying. It's up to you to decipher what you see on tape. And that's all I'm showing. Like, you know, there was good times and bad times with this whole scenario. Unfortunately, the bad times outweighed the good times because R. Kelly is sitting in jail. And people have strong emotions towards it. I don't blame you, dog. Like sometimes you can buy into something and what you buy into, when you find out they aren't what you thought they were, you can't accept it. And yes, I do apply that to R. Kelly. Because people can't accept the thought of him actually committing sexual acts with children. They can't. And I get that. You know, and I keep telling you guys about tapes, and I don't want to go too much in detail, but as I've said before, you know, there was a problem with R. Kelly years ago. You know, at one time, you know, the real shocker when people say, you know, well, Shabazz, you don't have the tapes, or show me the tapes, or this. There are things that I just never put out. There are things that we didn't address. But I can remember in the turbulent times going to his mother's gravesite, and she had no headstone. I can remember interviewing his niece as a little girl, and she didn't have anything nice to say. Like, that's just what it is. I don't know if these people were put up to that. I don't know, you know, if the picture painted was what they wanted it to be painted as, but it happened. And what I'm trying to show you guys is just like some of the information that I have obtained, the things that I have seen, other people have seen it too. In all honesty, with no one showing up to court, that might have saved R. Kelly. Because if people were really put under pressure to tell the truth, some of the things that they might have said would have been really damaging. Some of them might have been good. But the problem, or I shouldn't say the problem, what's the word I'm looking for? What would happen as a result of that is you would have to take a chance. You don't know if it's going to go left or you don't know if it's going to go right. But you have to dig in order to find out. That's what Jennifer Bonjean dropped the ball. And first part of dropping that ball is she had no idea where to even look. That is part of the problem that I have. I am not condoning a goddamn thing that R. Kelly was found guilty of. I'm not. I am not for pedophilia. I am not for sexual misconduct. And for those who say, well, who said he was, you know, who said that he's a pedophile? Who said this? Or who said that? Yo, at the end of the day, I'm not even falling for that bait anymore because legally he has been convicted of sexual misconduct with a minor. That is pedophilia. Whether you want to label it as that or not does not take away the fact that technically he's a pedophile. I know that shit bothers people. But yo, I am not going to continue to run around with a masquerade and pretend that something didn't happen that did. If you wish to remove that title from him, so be it. You would have to do it where the title actually originated and came from. And the only way to do that is in court. You got to win in court. If you don't do that, regardless of whether you like the word or the circumstances or not, that's just what it is. Does that mean you have to turn your back on him? It does not. Does that mean that you shouldn't defend him? It does not. But does that mean that you shouldn't be honest? It does not. That is the problem in the black community, especially with our heroes. And because there are such a lack of black heroes, we really feel it when they take away one. Because if you really want to be honest about it, because you're a singer, a rapper, or a musician, you're not a goddamn hero. You're just a singer, a rapper, or a musician. But because we don't have leaders, we're going to give that title to whoever has popularity. And that's not how it should go. If anything, you should remember R. Kelly in his prime and run with that. That's the best way to handle it. For example, take a look at him in his prime. Look at the gloriousness, the grandeur of it, the appreciativeness of interaction with a crowd. You can see that he likes doing what he's doing. Can you not? Those are the memories that you should have. Pleasant thoughts, good feelings. Remember why musically he was a genius and definitely the king of R&B.
It's the remix to Ignition, hot and fresh out the kitchen. Mama rolling that body, got every man in here wishing. My mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yes. Baby, I don't want to hurt nobody, but there is something that I must confess. Okay, when a woman's fed up, no matter how you beg, no, vibe. Wow, why did I go there? Okay, yeah, so it's your boy Kels. I know it's a little bipolarish, but I love y'all. One, peace.